Sanbonani, Dumelangi, Absheni, and hello. Batho ba babedi ha ba nyala ho hlakana di family, ho hlakanele di chomi, ho be monate. Empa ha ho se monate lenyalong, re ya gae, re ya ho modimo, re khutlela di family kapa re khutlela di choming. Ka jeno ke na le moeti o bohlokwa haholo, a phenomenal woman o tlo buang ka leeto la hae la divorce le motho ane a morata haholo ntate wa bana ba hae. My name is Vanessa and Atsoteti on your show UTHANDO NE MALI. Let me introduce you to my guest, Mpho Okhula, who is going to tell us more about her journey in her marriage. Awusi Mpho, dumela hle. Moratuwa o motle o re ona le di dimples hle ha o bona halelo hore ona le stress o dula o complain hore ona le stress. Hey V, I'm stressed. V, I'm ke motho le stress so ka baby face eso ke o amohela studio sa ka jeno. Awusi Mpho, nkile ka hlakana le wena wa nqoqela ka taba ya hao, re bua ka taba ya manyalo o mpotsa hore ke nyetse na ke re eya ai ke nyetswe o mpotsa hore ke dutse hantle lenyalong na ibile re advisor na hore haibe ha ka dula hantle lenyalong ke seke ka senya nako ya ka haibe ke bona hore ha ka tshaba ke itse Awusi Mpho hobaneng o no o njwetsa ntho tseo tse jwalo ka nako eo ho ne ho etsahalang ho la hao lenyalo, and can you please take us through hore right now what is happening in your marriage?
Okay, so basically I married my best friend and I'm really happy, and just to say the least, my husband has done so much to uplift me that I'm not going to be so negative that I only point out the mistakes. When it started out, it was good. I mean, I'm very intelligent, so I won't just put myself into a situation that is dangerous, whatever not. But because of drugs and the in-betweens, it just got hard. And I'm at the point where we are separated now, but legally we are still binded together. But you quickly realize for getting married is 75 rand because divorce will cost you your sanity. Yeah, you understand when you get to that stage where okay, I should have just stayed with my 75
friends.
Yeah, we together,
because now divorce it costs like the 75 rand that's
yeah.
So Awusi Mpho, what happened hore literally fihle got this conclusion ya hore you guys wanna go your separate ways? What happened?
Okay, so basically when we found that we were not able to solve issues amicably anymore, it got to a point where even the situation was so hostile that it was a dangerous zone for the both of us. Because psychologically, if a person abuses you so much, you end up retaliating. And for me, it had to be a decision between trying to make my marriage work because I've got strong Christian background, and
Amen.
There's many people in the church who've been telling me, fight for your husband, pray for him. And I won't lie, I've done everything. I went back to God, to my source. I went on my knees and I said, God, if he's not praying enough, let me pray for him. Because if a man comes from my rib, then maybe I can stand as V2 for him. But unfortunately, I failed. And because I'm a person who does not want to fail, it just made me so it just made me unsettled because I constantly tried to change him, not realizing that no one has the power to change another person. I can only give it to God. And till this day, I get very angry when I hear people saying, Hore, when you're married, you consult God, you don't divorce or whatever not. That is not the right advice to give anyone. We need to exercise wisdom because God gives us discernment. Exactly. Because I had to see that although there was love, the other things were outweighing the love. And for me, if a person says what I can bring to the table is love, it's not enough. We can argue the fact until it's tomorrow, but love is not enough because it needs to be accompanied by other characteristics that make a marriage work. So unfortunately, in my case, and I'll boldly say it, and if my husband ever watches this, he and his conscience know, Hore, I can willfully stand and say, even when I got married, I did it godly. And I went to God. I never spoke to ancestors. I went straight to God. And we went to a high priest. He prayed over us. He gave us the blessing and we were good to go. But unfortunately, it failed. It failed, Ausaka. And it felt so much that I've forgiven myself, because sometimes for you to find peace, you need to forgive yourself.
Forgive yourself first, yes.
Because it's quite horrid if I was to explain all the things I went through and the things I've done. I sacrificed myself to the extent that I would even go and buy my husband drugs, because I didn't want the withdrawals and the behavior that will come with it. For me to have peace, I think, you know what, let me give this man what he needs so that there's peace in the household.
So it was a very deep, you know, whenever batho ba divorce, automatically the society inahana hore a man cheated or motho wa mosadi cheated.
Yeah.
But in your case, ke a utlwa hore you were enabling your husband. You were even going out there to buy him drugs. So case ya lona wasn't about hore o cheated or wena o cheatile, but it was about something else, a substance that he was abusing.
Yeah, because when my husband has got good values, because he's practically seen his parents together his whole life. So for him, cheating is taboo. So my husband was faithful. That I will not lie about. My husband was faithful. Sometimes I wish he wasn't, because then it was, I won't have to feel the pressure alone.
Say that.
But my husband was faithful. The only thing is he couldn't let go of the drugs. But I constantly say that the drugs are also equivalent to a side chick, because he'd run away to go get the drugs.
Correct.
He'd come back the following day, sometimes if maybe he couldn't get transport the previous night. So I feel like the drugs were the side chick within our marriage, because they took so much from the both of us. Because I'm sure that wherever he is now, no man will stand before God and say, I'm taking this woman to protect her and love her, and not see that he has failed. I'm sure where he is, it also impacts him. But I've gotten to a stage where I need to heal me. I can't help him. At some point, I need to pull away. Yeah.
So, how simple. Tell me, ile ya affecta jwang taba ya hao le monna hao hore ha le sa utlwana ende o investitse nako ya hae e ngata ho this substance ena I abuser. I affectile jwang bophelo ba hao, your career, your time with your children, because ke a tseba hore whenever these things start ko ntlong, ha o sa ba monate le wena o ba frustrated.
Yeah.
Le bana ba hao ha o sa ba le attention e ngata ya o ba neletsa, because ha o ba bona wa tena, because o dula o na le stress, ha o bona family ya heno ha o sa ba le nako ya ntho tse ngata. Ile ya affecta jwang ntho ya hao le monna hao, e affectile jwang bophelo ba hao, your career, your kids and your friends and your other families?
Okay, it minimized my social life to zero. Because remember, for an abuser to be able to have power over you, he breaks all the relationships that you have. So there's no unbiblical quote to your mother, there's no cousin, there's no brother, there's no sister. So I got to a place where he isolated me so much that our lives had to be about the two of us. And at that time, I couldn't differentiate between it being him being overly in love with me or him being obsessed with me. And I realize now that it ended up becoming so dangerous that even everyone at my workplace has got a story to say about my husband, because he's pestered almost everyone with his jealousy and him trying to tarnish my image. But you know what? It affected me a lot, because this man abused me so much to the point that I've got a disconnect with my emotions. So even when I interact with my kids, I can't be as fully loving, because now there's a lot of hindrances. And I think people don't understand that the reason why you are told to leave while the abuse is still fresh is because it's got so much implications on your life. Because we've got to a point now where he doesn't even want to give up the kids. He feels he's entitled to having the kids. And we've had arguments back and forth. We've went to court. But I've ended up getting to the conclusion that, you know what, I'm giving it to God. And whenever you give your battles to God, you cannot intervene, because then you need to stand aside and let God work. So for me, it's been heartbreaking, and that's one of the reasons why I even agreed to have this interview, because I feel like if my kids are being raised by his family, it's very easy for them to influence them. And they could get to a point where they've got self-esteem issues or learning incapabilities, because they'll always have at their subconscious mind that idea that their mother never loved them. But I feel that it's so important for me to find ways to make my kids know that I love them. and I lived for them. And the reason I walked away was for them, because as much as they're still toddlers, they're fragile. And them seeing how I'm being treated every day, and how I'm treating the father. Because remember, if you're being abused, you retaliate and you do the same.
You do, yes.
I was getting to a point where I could even single-handedly beat my husband up, because I knew calling the police won't help. I do not have a brother at home or anybody. We literally had to sell the house we lived at because my husband was that dangerous. But you know what? That's why I'm so thankful for God. God is generous. God gives you strength. He gives you grace to continue. You know, I've gotten to a point where there's certain things that I don't even pray about anymore. I just wake up and I say, God, give me the strength for the day. Because remember, you are stripped of your dignity. People know what my husband is doing to me. There's an incident where he was literally dragging me on the tar road. He wanted the car to go buy drugs. Everyone is taking videos. You can think what that does to yourself.
The embarrassment.
Why thinking, Vanessa?
How do you face the world after that? Because everyone was watching.
Yeah.
You know, Keratile, when we start, you say that I am not 100% right.
Yes.
Yes. Do you feel like it's somewhere, somehow, it's your fault, or like maybe abuse it? Do you feel you could have like done something better before we limata? Because I can even see this in your eyes, or just that you are a strong woman and you are a woman of God. I always say to people that how na le modimo matla o ba le ona re neiwe matla ka lebitso la morena Jesu ra gona go rwala dintho tse ngata ha re na le modimo njengoba o tsho hore nana le go draga alwane le koloi a o shape pela batho, but ka matla a modimo o fileng ona no gona go tswa ka tlung o face setšhaba sena o tlontlolla go sona. So o ka tsho hore ho teng mo le wena o bapetseng part ya hore ntshwe e tswelle pele, because na tseba hore o ka se tsamaye o mo rata ka tsela ya hore whatever that he's doing, you won't leave him.
You know, Vanessa, I think my biggest problem is that society always projects that on the victim of abuse. You are always asked, but what did you do? Guys, nothing warrants abuse. I promise you, nothing warrants abuse. Because I would get home, I'd clean, I'd cook, we'd share in the duties of the household. I was fully a wife, and I still say I will never allow myself to ever say I deserved any of the treatment I got from my husband, because I made sure that I still respected him. Even in times when he lost his jobs due to negligence and drugs, I'd still stand by him. I'd make sure he has his dignity. This is the man, is a man who I literally would even buy clothes for, give money so that when he gets to his friends, he doesn't look like a person who's not okay. And we shared in everything. And the very same man is the man who was able to give my clothes to the Salvation Army. He was able to cut up all my clothes and bleach them, and my passport. This guy did so much to me that literally if I was to write a book, the publisher would say, okay, stop, this is enough. There was a lot. So I feel like, in a way, it was lessons that I needed to learn, but I just want to give advice to someone else to say, walk away.
Walk away.
Time can never be regained.
Walk away.
I lost a lot of time trying to put faith into making something work that I could see was not going to work.
It was, there was. So, na, ho hola haka, ke hotse ka tlasa domestic violence. Ntate wa ka ne le motho o shapang nwaka haholo ke le monyane. And like I would, you know, that thing ne disturb haholo sekolong. Next sa khone ho etsa nix. Ke dule ke le ngwana o tshuhileng. You know, if something like bangs, like I jump because of the way ke hotseng ka teng, a ka hola ha monate. So, why ke botsa question, why ke o jwetsa story saga? I want to know, how are your kids coping and how are you coping?
Okay, so my kids are not coping. I'm not even gonna lie about it. And quite recently, when I went to the house to see how they are now, the environment is, it's, to say the least, it's disheartening. But yeah, we fought again. We had to call the police again. The same old
This
drama.
happened now.
Quite recently.
Oh.
So it led me to the conclusion that I'm gonna have to just pray that God is with my kids, because there's a point where you as a human being within your own power can't do anything. So I've walked away, and it's painful for me. And for someone who doesn't understand, it will be so easy to quickly judge and say, Yazin, mina ngala
neglected your kids.
Listen, ungala uzube bovu. But some situations need you to fight them in a way that is conducive, you know. It's like even when I was stuck in the abuse, you don't just abruptly tell a man in the face, Hore, I'm leaving, I'm packing my bags, I'm leaving. Because you endanger yourself, you endanger your kids. So, Mina, to be honest, it really taught me how to be slick. My ex-husband taught me to be streetwise. Listen, I can walk in the street at 2 a.m. I mean, even in the area that we're in, hobos know me, criminals know me, because of his street credibility for doing the wrong things. So now I've gotten to a point where I told myself, well, you know what, kids will grow. And they come from my womb. They'll always have that connection with me. So for me to make sure that they are secured now, I need to give them peace. They can't be going through what they're going through and me arguing and whatever not. And I'm just fortunate that as much as he's a drug addict and abusive, he's what we call a functioning addict.
Yeah.
My husband is able to take care of the kids. He knows how to, this guy even knew how to bottle feed the kids. So it just shows you, Hore, drugs are such a bad influence in the community that they kill homes, they kill, it's an actual situation that makes you see how bad drugs are. Because my husband, if you see my husband, he had the anointing over his life. He's able to pray over people. He's able to speak the word. But unfortunately, if you do not fight the clutches of the devil and he gets a hold of you, no one can save you. Because remember, the more we can do deliverance or whatever, we need to understand that when you dance with the devil, you will get burned.
You will get burned.
And, you know, I remember there was a time when we had spoken about it and he was about to lose his job. And I had told him, you know what, try to stay away from drugs. It was lenient enough to give you time and test you after 30 days when your system is clean. And at night, I'd get into the kitchen and him and his friends are warming up an empty plate. Obviously, they are going to sniff. And it made me realize, you know what?
They're warming up in
Exactly, they're warming up an empty place. Drugs will make you a fool.
Oh
Grown men standing around the microwave watching a plate turn just so it can be hot enough for them to cut. No, you know what?
You've been through a lot, Daibo. And like you wake up, and now you are watching and an empty plate around the microwave.
Why is he, Vanessa? Unfortunately, I was so exposed to the drugs, how they take them, where they buy them, and everything that involves them, that nothing shocked me anymore. In fact, it made me lose respect for them. Because I would look at my husband and think, Hore, you're the man of the house. You're the one who God has ordained to protect and cover the household. And if you are here doing what you are doing
with your friends,
clearly my safety doesn't matter. Clearly the kids don't matter. That's why I'm saying till this day, whenever a person says to me, you should have fought for your marriage or pray or whatever, I always say, Karen, leave me alone. Honestly, there's certain situations that people will never understand.
Yeah, because it's not like no duty or you are sitting there, you are a child of God. You know exactly how revele sanse o rapele, because I believe God situation, every situation we are going through, God is there. God doesn't leave. God doesn't leave us. We leave Him. And sometimes God allows situation. Maybe sometimes the way maybe sometimes what's we channel through that pain o ileng go yona o tla pheta hape a o kenyetseleng e right hape o be le lethabo through that situation. Don't forget to like, share and comment. Rutle hore wena o reng ka taba ena ya divorce. Ekabe o dumellana le yona kapa ore batho ba dule manyalong wa bona ba lokise kapa batho ba tsamaye. Ke sana le Ausimpho Kgaola ntse re le busy re qoqa ka taba ena ya divorce. Ausimpho, hona le batho ba bangata e ke ba tsebang who went through a painful divorce, whereby ntate o tlo tsamaya a siye mme ka tlung le bana a tsamaya lo dula le mme o mong ka ntle. You know the pain ya hore bana ha ba se ba le attached ko both parents, pain ya hore motswadi o iwane a tswe ka tlung a lo dula somewhere, or pain ya hore bana ba witness le lwana ka tlung ho se monate. I've seen one person o ileng ngwana wa batho ba ba divorcetseng a sa itshwarela yena. Sometimes bana hana le hore maybe ke fault ya bona hore batswadi ba bona ba divorce and ba carry pain eo wherever mo ba tsamayang teng. Bana ba sa phuthulluha gore wa mmona le motho a tsamaya mola hore this person o imetswe o na le pain, o utlwe ba re after mme wa hae le ntate wa hae ba divorce azanga phete a be right. So wena o nahana hore bana ba hao ba tla hola hantle mo baleng teng?
You know what, the incredible thing about God is when you have an anointing over your life, it doesn't mean that you only going to experience things that are nice to experience, that it's going to be rosy. Sometimes God's anointing is so heavy that it makes you go through certain things because He wants to empower you to be able to help other people. Because before I started working, I was counseling young kids, troubled youth, people who are doing drugs. Imagine, I'm trying to sort out people's issues and I get home and I've got my issues that I can't sort out. So you see, sometimes I would even say God has a sense of humor. Like, fix mine first, God. Why are you continuously letting people come to me to ask for help for the very same thing that I'm battling with? But in the issue of looking at my kids, it just makes me think, Kore, God will give them strength. God will build them. They will be outstanding citizens of society because I say it with my mouth. As a mother, I'm able to pray over my kids and pray over my household.
You prophesy life over your kids.
So because I have that power, that authority, I say that my kids will grow well and my kids will learn from this, and this will enable my kids to be able to love people to a full extent, to be able to support others, to be able to know the difference between right and wrong.
Yes. Ausimpho, ke a leboha haholo. O ka reng ho batho ba shebelletseng ka jeno, like someone who's going through the same situation you are going through, someone oleng go an abusive marriage. O ka reng ho bona, and then le ho batho ba hona le, like ke tla reng before ke kwala, we have women ba kenang manyalong ba sa understand hore lenyalo ke eng. I understand now batho ba baholo ha ba re lenyalo le thata ba tjho horeng ne ba sa tjho fela based hore like maybe santse o khotlelle dintho tse mpe monna hao kapa mosadi wa hao a di etsang, mara hore o be le backbone eo ya hore o tla yemela eng kapa eng e etsahalang, because ha re kgetha santse re kgethe hantle. So ho batho ba basadi ba ileng hore ba kena manyalong ba kenela ntho tse material. Right now ke hlakana le motho wa monna o na le koloi e flash o tsamaya ka bitlele, o na le koloi, o na le ntluko e botse, then be ke rata ntho eo ke sa mo evaluator yena pele as a person before ntho tse a na leng tsona, ke be ke nyala le yena ka lebaka la hore o mfa tšhelete, o na le koloi e ntle, o dula ntlong e majabajaba, o nketsetsa eng, o nrekela di-weave, o etsa ntho tse kaofela. And then again le batho ba basadi ba ileng hore ba kena manyalong le batho ba ba bonang hore ba abusive. We have women ba kenang manyalong le batho ba leng abusive before marriage, and they will say that I will change this man, or marriage will change this man. O ka reng ho batho ba jwalo Ausimpho, o ka ba advisor o reng ho batho ba jwalo hore like tabeng ya hore nje lenyalo is something different from the way rona re le nahanang ka teng?
Okay. First and foremost, I'll go back to the fact that it's 75 rand to get married for a reason. Because everything that's going to be required of you, you can't pay a lot for marriage because you go through the most. And marriage is beautiful. Like, I'm not going to speak against marriage and say to people, yeah, you need
Don't
to
get married.
Marriage is beautiful if you and your partner know how to face challenges and obstacles and overcome them. Unfortunately, it will not be the same for everyone because some of us need to be lessons. If this never happened to me, then I would not be able to empower the women that I've been able to empower because one thing about me is I talk, Vanessa. One thing about me is I'm not prideful. I get to the office, even if I've got a black eye, we even joke about it. I'll say, "Hurai, mfanendi umtushuzile," or I'll always speak. I'll always speak because I feel like speaking relieves you, and because I've always been able to speak and not hide and not make this projection of my husband being perfect. It helped me heal a lot because even before I physically left the relationship, I had mentally left because I made peace with it. So the advice I'd give to people is marry. If you find your soulmate, marry that person. I still do believe that I'm still going to get married. Just because it didn't work out the one time, it doesn't mean that God has got a lifelong string of suffering that's waiting for you. Marriage is a beautiful thing. It's a union between two people who decide, "Hore, I got your back, you've got my back." It made me even realize even more that when the Bible tells us about loving your neighbor is your spouse. Forget about the person on the other side of the fence. Your neighbor is your spouse. And once you have that in mind, it enables you to be compassionate. It enables you to walk in your partner's shoes. And it enables you to feel for him in a way that when the Bible says that Christ loved the church so much, you are able to love your husband that way, because then when you experience that godly love, you are able to give it to the next person. But it's unfortunate that with my situation, it didn't work. And I don't think there's any reason for us to sort out issues, because at some point you need to just put the racket down and say the game is over. There's literally nothing we can do. So I want to advise women to say, if there are times when a man will slap you and it is a genuine mistake, but unfortunately with society today, you cannot let it slide as a mistake because you never know what will happen tomorrow. So as soon as you feel like you are pressed and you're being abused, when you get the opportunity, leave the situation. Do not live in a coffin. Do not live in a casket. I was blessed enough that I had such a strong support system that I started over. I was able to go back home with no shame because my mother always welcomed me with open arms. There's no way to throw a child who has failed. And I don't feel I've failed because I did everything that I needed to do. And if this is God teaching me certain lessons, then I take it. Because going into the next relationship, I'll understand certain things, because us as women, you endanger yourself because you want to stand head to head with a man, and you can't. Unfortunately, you can't. Because we as women, we are dangerous with our mouths and we're spiteful. I know, sometimes I just shut it because I know I can say something that can make a man lose his ego, his whole lifetime. He can pack his bags and leave and go to another continent, not even another country. And, men don't vocalize like us. Men are more physical. So don't think that you being a hero, you are standing there telling Jabu he's useless. Jabu will beat you up and Jabu will kill you. Because men are not like us. So once you feel that the situation is hostile, make plans to find a safe exit for you and your kids and leave. If God blessed you once, he's definitely going to do it again.
Can I do it again?
Exactly.
How simple. Ke a leboha haholo, ke a utlwa story sa hao, ene ke leboha haholo. Hoba that bold to come and share your story with the nation, if I would say that. It's not easy to come and disclose something eso le batho. Ke leboha haholo for nako ya hao. E kare modimo a ka kenella ho divorce process ya hao. Modimo a etsa thato ya hae. E seng thato ya hao le monna hao. E kare e ka ba yena a lokisang ka tsela e batlwang. Ibile ikare a ka sireletsa bana ba hao, a ba fa matla, a ba hodisa, a ba sireletsa mimoyeng le melekong, ba ska tswa ba lemetse dikelellong tsa bona. Ausimpho. That's it from me. Cheer up, V is on your screen. It's about to get cheesy on the next episode of UTHANDO NE MALI. I'm out. Bye bye.